So today I'm going to talk about how we actually deployed the conference, everything that went into the planning and the training and the deployment. And I agree with Rana. Special thanks actually to the staff at PAN-PBL. So just want to let you know this isn't really a deep dive into Immersive Terf, but I want to give you an idea of what the platform is. It's a 3D virtual world, which you can see here. Excuse me. You can see this is actually from the outbrief with the staff. And it was built from the ground up to focus on collaborating over content and not just as social interaction. It allows you to have pre-created content such as 3D models, documents, images, videos. You can drag and drop from your desktop. You can also create content together. We have a number of tools like drag and drop sticky notes, text files, and so on. It doesn't require any special hardware, but we do recommend a headset like I'm wearing with a microphone because we do have high quality audio. It's stereo and it allows for seamless conversations as they flow naturally. And finally, a really important feature is that our rooms are tailorable, customizable, and can look like actual places in the real world, and they actually become locations where people can meet and collaborate.
Hi everyone, let's start this paper presentation.
So that was actually pre-recorded in our virtual world. PAN-PBL 2019 was over the course of 2 days in the summer. We had about 80 participants, and there were a total of 22 sessions. So today I'm going to talk about how we got ready for it and how we deployed it. And it was a really good joint collaboration between the PAN-PBL staff and 3D-ICC. So why did they pick Immersive Terf? Co-presence is huge at conferences in the real world, and Immersive Terf supports that. Everybody has an avatar or a little figure that represents them. It also allows you to see other people in the room. If there's 5 people in the room, you can use your arrow keys, look around, walk up to them, talk, have conversations. It's multiple users, multiple activities, multiple sources of information. It's very natural once you get used to the technology. And as I said before, context, the virtual locations can actually resemble a conference room or an entire conference center. It's very content-centric, which conferences are, but they're also social-centric. The environment is available 24/7, and all content, once you put it there, is there till you remove it. So I'll get into that soon. What was key to the success of the conference was planning. The session rooms were, I had to remove me for a moment. So each session we decided would have its own room. And that way, if presenters wanted to customize the content, they wanted to customize how many chairs were there, they would be allowed to. It wouldn't affect anybody else. So it accommodated what their style of presentation was and the kind of content they needed. Unstructured time, that we needed a time to have unstructured interactions, which I'll get into in terms of lessons learned a little later on. We had a poster session room where people could go engage with authors, read the content of their papers, and also a separate space to go and get help that wouldn't interfere with any of the sessions going on. So areas of risk. So we were concerned a little about, since this was the first PAN-PBL fully in world, what if the assets being used by an attendee or a presenter wasn't kind of up to par? It was an older asset, and also we had no control over network bandwidth and latency. In addition, it was a new tool for most people, so we had to make sure that they had enough of a lead time and had enough of training to at least know the minimum they needed to know for the conference. So as far as network access and stability of network, that fed into our risk mitigation. one of the things, and I think we kind of overcompensated for this, which the feedback indicated, was that presenters were told to pre-record their presentations on a video. And instead of actually presenting slides in World and standing behind a podium, they played, we had it pushed out to everybody's computer. You just click a link in World. We actually wrote a little script that would do that, and staff clicked the link, and everybody saw the YouTube video. This kind of was difficult for some people, because once the video, which could be anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes, finished, people were kind of not engaged enough to really take advantage of the highly interactive nature of the audio and seeing each other and being able to interact in a natural way with the presenters. So that was something that in our lessons learned in a big way that we should have used as a backup plan, not as a primary mode of presenting, which was fine. I mean, it's a lesson that we took away and gives us opportunity for improvement. Another thing that we did to mitigate any kind of risk is we had a very robust training plan, and we had authors and presenters get their content in World by dragging and dropping or emailing it to us, and we would put it in ahead of time so there'd be no slide projector glitches and so on, even though there weren't any slide projectors. Flow control was another area of risk mitigation, I guess. We wanted to make sure that people, when they logged in, didn't see every single room for every single session. We thought they'd be overwhelmed. So that was something I'll get into in terms of lessons learned in a minute. So training was really critical. It's a feature-rich environment, and we needed to make sure they narrowed down the things that they could use or see or do, because people can get overwhelmed. I know I certainly can. If I have a new tool I have to learn, it's better for me to have a subset of capabilities that I can focus on and master. So we made sure that the features that we taught were relevant to the role of the person we were training. So we had presenters who needed certain information. Are they a moderator of a panel or a member of a panel? They should understand, how they're going to interact with people. Was it an author and a poster session? They just knew where their poster was, so they could go there and learn the basics of the tool. And were they just an attendee going from session to session? The feedback after the conference was very important for us to be trained, and in general, the training apparently was a real key component, and that was highly successful. They actually wanted more training sessions, and they wanted it to happen earlier. They suggested that we should tell people to attend more than one training as frequently as they wanted, and they wanted to have access to the environment long before the conference started, so that they could get more comfortable. So the PAN-PBL staff was amazing. They created a website, and users would log in with their password and their username, and they would have a landing page like so. And by clicking on My PBL 2019 Personal Program, they would be given thumbnails of all the sessions that they chose. Clicking a thumbnail would take you directly into the room in which the session was being held, and that was a really nice feature to have. So I'm going to try not to go so fast. The Keynote Session Room, the Workshop Room, and the Collaboration Hub were very interesting spaces, and just as an example of what we ended up deploying, this will give you an idea of how the rooms were used. So the keynote sessions, we had 2 keynote sessions, each having a different style. Each presenter had a different style. The first presenter on day 1 wanted to have a more intimate engagement, had less slide content to share. And so you can see there's 2 webcams being projected. They're both the same image, but this way all of the people in the audience could use their arrow keys to look left, look right, look center, and they would have the ability to view more than one source of information at a time. unlike what you're seeing here on the webinar, I can only present you what I've pre-planned ahead of time and only one view at a time. I can switch between views because I have a good tool to do it, but I have to actively do it. In this case, and in a 3D virtual world, everybody has the ability to see any part of the room they want at any time. So on day 2, the presenter, who was Dr. Renati Fruchter, she chose not to use her webcam. She preferred to provide more information, to provide context for whatever she was speaking about. And so you can see the same exact room being used in 2 different ways.
Welcome to our workshop room. Come on in. Start off your session by introducing yourself and present your key concepts in our projection area. You can do some preliminary activities on the large boards over here, where you can organize people's thoughts and ideas by topic. Brainstorm as a large group, having participants drag sticky notes onto the board, rearrange them, and then collect them all into a text file for later. Then split into teams for small group brainstorming exercises using these soundproof areas back here. Each group will be able to engage without disrupting adjacent teams, and as the session leader, you can go from team to team and provide any assistance needed. At the end of the activity, you can move all the inputs to the big boards and even create a poll using the content of the sticky notes so people can vote for topics and solutions they prefer. This room provides the space needed to balance presenter dynamics with highly interactive and engaging activities for participants. And finally, since the room is available long before your session, you can set up your materials and instructions ahead of time and avoid the last-minute rush. So consider these features when you design and submit your workshop proposal for the upcoming conference. See you there.
So I just want to say that that was actually a video that we posted on, well, that was posted on the PAN-PBL 2019 website, and we recommended that people running workshops take a look at. And that actually made a big difference because you can see up here, this is the actual workshop session. And what happened was this particular lead decided to begin by presenting. Down here you can see all of the participants. Decided to start by saying, okay, this is what the workshop is about, welcome, and then they moved back into these soundproof areas when they broke up into teams, and after they were done doing all their brainstorming, they had a really, really nice lively discussion focused on outbriefing what happened in the brainstorm sessions. So this was very powerful. And then we had what's called the Collaboration Hub. Now this is got 12 soundproof areas so that when you walk into any one of these cubicles behind the glass half wall, you could have a nice conversation and the people next door to you wouldn't be able to hear it unless they walked in. So there's also a common meeting place in the center. So we figured this was a good space for poster sessions and also, excuse me, a place for people to come and meet during their downtime. When you landed, if you clicked on the Collaboration Hub thumbnail, when you landed in the room, you have a list of the 12 different cubicles. If you click on one, it took you directly to one of the cubicles. Each cubicle had a conference table for people to sit if they chose to, one of those tabbed wall boards with the poster content, and they, again, as I said, they were soundproof. And there were some lessons learned from that configuration as well. So, lessons learned. One of the things I wanted to highlight is the ability to customize based that came out of our training session with the presenters. So the standard layout for the panel session were 4 chairs at the front of the room and a single podium to present content. One of the panel leads said, I don't want the chairs, I want the people to look at the audience, I want them to be able to move around, to come into the audience, and so we replaced the chairs, each chair with a podium, and you can see in the actual session it made sense for them. So, sorry about that. I had a picture a larger picture of that, but I apparently deleted it. So anyway, so you can see they presented live. In fact, this panel lead decided I don't want to use the pre-recorded video, and they actually did away with it completely and presented their content completely interactively. And it was a really engaging conversation after the presentation. So the biggest lesson that I learned was let people be confused. Don't try to keep things away from them. Don't worry. Let them make mistakes. If they're left with less choices, then they may not get a chance to dynamically engage with people. If they have to sign up ahead of time, they can't change their choices. It's very limiting, and it can lower their satisfaction. So the more preparation, though, increase their satisfaction. It's important that the presenters work with us ahead of time. It's not typical for a normal conference center or a normal conference, but they generally have, the conferences I've presented at, you would have a meeting ahead of time and they would give you an idea of the format of the session. And I think that's something we could have done a little better, is to have meetings ahead of time and have the presenters share with each other ideas that had developed based on their engagement in the virtual world. So the posters in the poster sessions could have been a lot bigger, a lot more easy to read, and further information could have been posted on those boards for links, URLs to further information. And back with the don't be scared of, don't worry about people being confused. Don't worry about the technology, but do have the backup plan. Don't use the backup plan as your first line of defense. So I think that those two things were our biggest takeaways. And consistency on pre-recorded videos would have been very helpful. And by the way, most of these lessons learned are from the user feedback, but also from our observations. We felt that more structure for the free time would have been good, rather than allowing people just go in and meet and greet. Because the technology was still new for them, we probably could and should have had some interactive activities. Maybe just have an assignment where everybody has to go and put their name on a sticky note and a flag next to their name to say what country they represented. Things like that, things that were easy to do but required them to interact with others. People said that the cookie cutter layouts and common color schemes were a little confusing because the session to session looked too much the same. And I understand that. That is so easy to change because customizing the room is just a couple clicks away. Another lesson learned is that worked well when they did it was getting the presenters to put their material in, go in ahead of time, practice, and then they can relax when they go into their session. And truly, PAN-PBL staff was wonderful. They participated in the training. They went to almost all of the training sessions we hosted, and they did a fantastic job. So I don't know if Q&A, it's time for questions and answers. So if you have questions, please enter them on the web page, the YouTube Live web page. Ron, do we have any questions?
No, not so far.
Okay.
We have Lucas that said feel free to ask questions, but with no questions so far.
Okay.
But you did an excellent job of going through all of the different aspects of the seminar itself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the people did really great. I think that one of the things that I learned also is that the people who were doing the presentations,
Yeah.
they really got a lot out of the tool. They were able to do and learn a lot about it and get comfortable with it relatively quickly. And I think that was really interesting to see. I think the workshop with the people who were actually engaging and participating and adding content and discussing it all, that interaction was really, really valuable. And I think that those people had a higher much higher satisfaction. Also,
Right,
the more
right.
the more that they engaged.
Yeah. So I think this was a fantastic first shot, and I hope we have the opportunity to do it again in the future. If anybody is interested in a deeper dive in Immersive Terf, we can just send us an email at info@3dicc.com, and we'll be happy to host a webinar and give you a walkthrough or create a space for you to have a free trial to play around with yourselves.
Okay, so we did get one question. We
Oh,
got
good.
thank you so much. My question is, how can we use the virtual conference to help learners in designing their critical thinking in different sciences? So,
Say it again, because that's a mouthful.
basically, how can we use a virtual conference to help learners in designing their critical thinking in different sciences?
Okay. So I don't think you need I'm not sure if you're asking for a conference or you're saying how can we use this space to do that, but I can address both. The first is the easiest, which is you can use Immersive Terf as your platform of choice to engage with students, whether it's lab time or team building exercises or collaborative activities or actually delivering your classes, your online classes in Immersive Terf. Because students engaging with each other for online classes is something that's really not easily accomplished with the current technology. This is really, really strongly value added. So if it's for the sciences, any content you want to bring in, you can to work with together. We can do different layouts of the rooms that look like lab environments, and we've done pharmacy training. And as far as conferences, that's just a bigger version of the single classroom. So if I did,
Yeah, and I think I was going to say so we had one person who was doing programming training and on small computers. So they would bring in models of the computers themselves to show the students how they worked and how they could be configured and the interfaces and all that sort of stuff for it. And then if you think about all of the ways of putting all of the content in context, when you've got the 3D model of the computer, you've got all the things that you can label there, you can put sticky notes on it, you can have screens with your code that you've produced, and you can show a compiler run. I mean, you can just lay out all of the content within the area. So it's a very powerful environment to be able to really work together to produce this type of information.
So hopefully that answered the question. And feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to elaborate or clarify any questions that you have.
We got one more. Hi, I'm really interested in trying myself. How can we do this? So we can send you I'll send you a quick link.
There it is. Just send us an email. We're happy to. There. We're happy to set you up. We're happy to give you a tour. One of the things I just want to mention, and this is not a sales pitch, I promise. One thing that we do take very seriously is the success of our customers. And regardless of level of familiarity with technology, we'll be there. We want to make sure that your use of Immersive Terf, since it is so immersive and so all-encompassing, is as successful as you want it to be, because that helps us.
Oh, thank you so much for putting this presentation together, Nina. You did a wonderful job.
Yeah. So, and thanks to the PAN-PBL team for hosting us. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I think that's all we have. That's it. Okay, Lucas, is there anything that, I guess bye.
Thanks, Lucas.